Hey everyone, it's Melody with Design by Melody. I am super excited to be here today sharing this layout. This is my first layout for Sonshine Stamp Company. I'm actually on their design team now and I'm incredibly excited. I'm using this awesome stamp set. It's called Kate's Hand, K-A-T-E, Kate's Hand, and it's an alphabet stamp. What's so awesome about it is that these alpha stamps are just like the perfect size for a layout. But they're also thin, so you can use them on cards or you can use them on pocket pages. I'm sitting here trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to lay this out. And the letters measure about 1¼ inches tall. And so what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to create a background with this stamp set by stamping a whole bunch of different words and phrases. And I'm going to use this one My Mind's Eye pattern paper as my background. Now this is a really old one. This is like a 2009 pattern paper. I just pulled it out from my stash. But what I was looking for, I'm using a photo of my sister. And what I was looking for a patterned paper that was not real busy. So this tone on tone, like heart pattern is perfect for this. And I'm going to do some embossing with these stamp sets. Now I'm using different words. I was just kind of writing them out. I was trying to figure out how many letters each of them were. I thought for a moment about staggering them and I end up not. I'm starting to make it a little bit more complicated than it needed to be. I was like measuring, I'm going to mark it here in a second. And then truly I realized that these stamps are the perfect size. Like they all measure the same height and they're almost all the same width. Some of them are wider than others, like the I is not going to be near as wide as say the W or something like that. Like it's just not the same width, but overall they're about the same size. So I decided just like go for it. I had marked it off. I had measured it. That's what you're going to see me do in just a second. I actually like measured how many words I was planning on doing. And then I was measuring them about 1¼ inches apart. But that got a little too technical for me. And I ended up just, taking the stamp set and going for it. Now, of course, I made a giant mess because I'm using the anti-stick powder. I have it in this little like jar that I just brushed across my page. And then I'm also using 2 different embossing, not inks. I'm using one embossing ink, the Versamark Watermark stamp pad. And then I'm going to use first I try a heat and stick powder. Basically what it is you're going to put the powder on here, you heat it up and it makes it almost like a glue, a sticky type of substance. And then I tried to put glitter over top of it. Well, it sort of worked, but after I tried just the clear embossing powder, it just was an extra step. The clear embossing powder did basically the same thing as the heat and stick powder with the clear glitter on top of it. So I just decided to take this step out of it and just go with the clear embossing powder. And I absolutely love the effect that this creates. I'm only going to show you a few of them here, and then I'm going to, this is the glitter one. Then I'm going to go ahead and speed it up and pass it and kind of show you the last little bit of it as well. And you'll tell that whenever I speed it up or skip forward and show you the last little bit that I had kind of modified my process. Instead of doing just one color, just one word, I do the whole row and then I heat emboss it all together. It really sped up the process. Now, this was not exactly like a do in 15-minute kind of layout, but I really love the effect. And I'm going to do the next word. It's going to be exactly the same word. The first word was blessed. I'm going to do the next word, exactly the same word, just right beside it, across the top, pretty much lined up. Not exact, but as close as I possibly can get. And I'm going to do that in white embossing powder. And the reason that I was alternating these, some of them are clear, some of them are white embossing powder, I wanted the words to stand out. And as I mentioned, whenever I speed up the process and skip ahead for you here in just a moment, you're really going to be able to see the effect that it creates and kind of the effect that I was going for. And I really love it. It's a simplified background that makes a huge impact, at least in my opinion. Now, this white embossing powder, as you could see, is kind of old. It was like a big chunk in this little plastic pot. But as I use it, it becomes more powdery and it works out perfectly. You can't tell once the word is heat embossed, you can't tell that it was old. It really doesn't matter how old it is. And these embossing powders, just in case you're curious, are from Stampin' Up. And they were given to me in somebody's D-stash. And so they're quite old. I would say they're probably 7 years old or so. And you can see how beautiful that white is coming across. Now, just a couple tips if you're heat embossing. If a letter doesn't exactly get coated in the powder as well as you'd like it, while the heat embossed area is still warm, pour the powder over top of it and the loose powder will stick to that as well. All right, and this is where I decide, you know what, I'm giving up on the heat and stick powder and the glitter, and I'm just going to go for the clear embossing powder. And so, just as I just mentioned, I'm just going to heat up that original portion and add some clear embossing powder over top of it, and it just kind of darkens that area. It creates more of a watermark, but it's with the clear embossing powder, so it's not going to fade out. It's adhered to the page. It's not going anywhere. All right, so I'm going to stop here and skip ahead for you to where you can kind of see the next point of this process. And as you can tell, it's getting a little messy, but I'm going to pull in a piece of black cardboard to put on my desk and do the embossing and all that on top of there. That way it just keeps my desk area clean. Also, one other thing that I want to note is that these stamps, because I was alternating between all of the different letters, I end up using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows across the entire 12 by 12 sheet of paper. The stamps got quite sticky with the Versamark, and I stopped cleaning them after each stamping because I was using them so much. And so I'll just do a really nice cleaning with just some warm water. I didn't even use soap. I just used warm water, and it got it really nice and clean at the end. All right, so here's that last row. I haven't even heat embossed the first word, the first blessed word, and that is the same word that I did on the first row. I wanted to make it kind of consistent across, from the top to the bottom. That's the only row that repeats. But I hadn't even heat embossed the first part of that. I just made sure that I had the powder on top of the stamped images, and I made sure not to contaminate the different powders. I kept them on their own little sections, and then I heat embossed it all together. And I really love the way that this turned out. Look how beautiful that is. And then the words are blessed, loved, hoped, faithful, prayed, patient, and then blessed again. Just cleaning up my little mess. And what's funny is I did all of this heat embossing, and I swear it looks like there's nothing gone out of these little powder things. I used it a lot, and obviously I wasted some because that's just going to get dusted away. And then I have my little anti-static one. That's a really helpful one. A lot of people use the little powder tool where it's in an EK Success powder tool that has it's like a little canister with a brush on the end. You don't have to use a paintbrush, but I had one, so it was easy. Here's just a look at the way that looks. That is so beautiful. I love it. It's the clear embossing powder has a bit of a shine to it, and these alphas are just the perfect size. I really love them, as you can tell. So because I had decided not to go with my measured portion, I have a larger gap at the bottom than I do at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this off, and then I'm going to create a small border at the top and at the bottom with this aqua kind of plaid paper. This is just a Recollections paper that I got from Michael's. It's that really thin kind of cheapo style, but I really like the color and the pattern. So I'm just going to back all of this on a piece of white cardstock. And because I heat embossed the entire background paper, it has just a slight warp to it, so it's helpful to adhere it or mat it on something just to give it a little bit more stability. Now, if you noticed as well, when I was heat embossing, I heated the front and the back of the paper, and that kind of helps keep it as flat as possible. But it just had a slight warp to it. It wasn't really that bad, honestly, but I decided to go ahead and use my glue runner on the edges, and then I just used some of my Tombow Mono multi-glue in the middle just to kind of get it as adhered as possible. Just trimming up the edges where it doesn't quite line up, and then my background is done. Now there's not a whole lot more that I'm going to add to this layout because I want the background to really be highlighted. I want it to be the main event here on this layout when Amber from Sonshine Stamp Company sent me these alpha stamps. I knew exactly what I was going to do with them from the very beginning. I didn't know what picture, but I knew I wanted to do a heat embossed background with the large words. I just thought it would be really pretty, and it is. It's perfect. By the way, pay attention to the way you stamp some of the letters, because I have an E on here that's backwards. And it bugs me because I can see it every time I look at the layout. And of course, now it's not in white, which is helpful. It's in the clear embossed portion, so it's not that big of a deal, because it's not that, I mean, it's not really highlighted. It's more of a background image. But I have an E that's backwards. But I still like the way it looked, and I didn't feel like I wanted to redo the whole page. I don't feel like it messed it up. It just is funny because I can see it. And I'm not going to point it out. I'm not going to show you where it is. You have to find it if you want to look for it. So these are some LA Studio cut-aparts. I don't know exactly which collection this is from. Maybe Little Moments. I can't remember. Maybe Penelope. I can't remember. I have all of my little LA Studio ones here together, and I was cutting apart that one because I just purchased it a couple weeks ago, and it was still kind of sitting on my desk, and it hadn't been put into my stash yet. So that's the one that I cut apart, and I'm just using a few of these little pieces. Again, I really want to highlight the background because I love these alpha stamps, and I really like the way that the heat embossing looks. So I'm adding minimal embellishments, and most of them are just these little cut aparts. There's a few of them. I'm leaving a spot for some journaling. I'm not going to do the journaling. This is actually a layout for my sister. This is a picture of her when she was pregnant. Her son turns 1 next week. Yeah, next week. So I thought this would be a really nice picture to go into her layout, to go into her album, and she can add her own little journaling on there. So just a few of the die cuts say things like, never forget these little moments. I love everything about this. This smile melts my heart. Noted. And then my fave at the top. And then I pulled out these little puffy heart stickers. These are from, what are these? These are from Sticko. I actually think I got these at Walmart. I love the puffy heart stickers, and I like the fact that they're in pinks, different shades of pinks, red, and then white as well. I use the LA Studio packaging to have this pink striped pattern paper or like cardstock packaging behind my photo. I just thought it was a nice way to add in just a pop of a color without it being too much. Plus some of the little die cuts that I'm using and the hearts have a little bit of that pink as well. Now, if you notice, I first was using my tape runner, and now I'm using the Tombow Mono multi-glue as my adhesive of choice because I heat embossed the background. It makes it raised, and it has kind of that glossy surface, so the elements have a hard time sticking to it. So if you choose to do the heat embossing, if you do it over the whole background like I did, make sure you use a pretty good adhesive because you don't want your stuff falling off later. We are nearing the end of this. Make sure you go and check out the blog post. There will be a blog post over at the Sonshine Stamp Company website, and I'll make sure that I leave links to everything in the description box below. Make sure you check back every day. We are going to have, the design team has a layout or a project or a Bible journaling share to show you every day for this entire month. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and I can't wait to see what else I can create with the stamps from Sonshine Stamp Company. All right, guys, thank you so much. Bye.